Right, welcome back. Right, so we're going to have a look at, I think where we are now, it gets, I think, is really interesting in terms of what it's all about. Now, as we've established in the first half, there is a very heavy man-made element to it, certainly from what I can gather. But that isn't the end of the story. There's still a big mystery to uncover here. Now, one of the things that really needs to be looked into is the energy effects that crop circles have. Now, I'll show you a video clip in a moment of Dr. Simeon Hein. Now, he's a researcher that started to look at crop circles as a phenomenon, as a real phenomenon, and he was measuring the radiation readings in all kinds of crop circles, and his static meter was going crazy during those. But then he started to look at man-made, and this really looks at the fact that, well, I'll put the video on and you'll see for himself in his own words what happens.
We measured wind damage, we measured tram lines, and these big, artistic, monstrous-sized formations, when we would go in them, it would make the static meter move. It would jump around. But when we were over just a flat field or wind damage or a tram line, it didn't change very much. And so that caused us to think perhaps we might have a litmus test for the difference between the real ones and the man-made ones, right? I mean, this is what everybody always wanted to have. Can you tell the difference, right?
Yes,
and
repeatable experiments.
We thought we had one of those, and then we encountered you at the Wagon and Horses in 2000, and you said, hey, we're doing an advertisement, the farmer's been paid for the field, would you like to come and do a true experiment where you can measure the field before we make it, and then as we make it and afterwards? And we thought, wow, this is great. We'll finally show that these man-made ones don't have any effect on the meter, right? That they're, well, we'd say statically flat, just no juju out there, no energy. And so we followed you to Pattern, right?
Yes.
And there were a few other people there at the time. The farmer, your team, myself, Ron, and some others. And we watched you, from beginning to end, and lo and behold, that made the static meter move quite a bit.
Sure.
Quite a bit, as much as anything else we had seen. And that was the end of our idea of this static meter being some sort of litmus test for authenticity. Based on what we were thinking at the time, we thought we could tell the difference. So here's what we found is that, well, if the one that Matt and his team just legally made, is making the meter move around, then what about all the other ones that made the meter move around? Those could have been man-made also. And that was the beginning of our realization that the whole premises that we're working from were wrong. That the man-made ones also could generate some sort of change in the energy field. It wasn't like what you did showed that it was a hoax. It was really, for us, the opposite. What it showed is that a man-made formation could create an energetic change in the distribution of energy in the air. And that was interesting. I thought that was really interesting. It didn't fit with what we thought, but if you're an open-minded person, you have to let go of your idea sometimes and say, hey, the data didn't fit what I thought. Isn't that wonderful? That means it's actually something bigger and better than I thought, which is what you want. You want to be disproved. You want your own ideas to get disproved so you can reach something bigger. Otherwise, you're not growing. Science doesn't advance. Nothing advances if it's always like you thought it was, right?
Sure.
So that was my reaction to it. But it did lead to the beginning of our seeing things different from the other circle researchers and people that had wanted to say the man-made ones were just fake, nothing going on there, stick with the real big ones, the real ones. So,
absolutely, yes.
That's Dr. Simeon Hein talking on Matthew Williams' program, Circle Makers TV, which goes out on the internet. So the conclusion was that it doesn't matter whether it was man-made or not. It was still having these weird effects on his equipment. So that's really, I think, should open up a big debate, but that's what's not happening in most crop circle research. They seem to be still pushing the it's real against man-made agenda, and it doesn't really get us anywhere. And what he's trying to do, he's trying to look at the energy effects that are on any crop circles regardless, because there's something seems to be going on that we're not quite understanding why this is happening. Why would a man-made crop circle have those kind of energy effects? So, and this is something that the more you look at it, the more you find there's something very strange, and probably it's a bigger mystery than is it aliens or whatever going on. It's something bigger and deeper than that, I think. And I'm going to look at some of the other anomalies that do surround this subject as well. This is probably one of the biggest phenomenons that happens around crop circles, balls of light, okay, or orbs, as some people call them. Now, this is a very real phenomenon, and it's been reported by people visiting crop circles, by researchers, and by circle makers as well. Okay, it was at one time believed that these balls of light were responsible for making the formations. There was a famous clip of one where there was balls of light whirling around, forming a crop circle at Oliver's Castle, I think it was. But that has since been largely disproved as to being a fake. It certainly hasn't been proven to be genuine anyway. But these balls of light are certainly present around crop circles quite often. But it's not just around the crop circles. They seem to be present in that whole area. And like I was mentioning before, that whole area seems to be alive with energy. Around where the sacred sites are, Silbury Hill, Avebury, Stone Monument and Stonehenge, places like that. Lots of reports of this kind of phenomenon. This is a picture I took just this summer. I was just looking at these again after a few weeks after I'd taken them. But if you look down that central channel, you can see a white dot. Can you see that? So I thought that seems a little bit out of place and it's a little bit odd. So I zoomed in, you can see it a little bit clearer there. Now, I don't know whether that's a ball of light or an orb or a trick of the light, but it's certainly something that seemed to be quite prominent there and seemed a little bit odd at the time. And it even seems to have a little bit of a glow around it. And these things are being picked up quite a lot when people take photographs in crop circles. That was taken just probably seconds later, and that ball of light is moved. I don't know if you can make out, well, you can't on that one. There are other points of light in different areas, so I zoomed in on those, and there are 3 different balls of light present in that particular photograph that weren't there in the previous one. And in the far end of the field, there was 3 dots up, see, to the right of the woman there. But it seems to be a phenomenon that seems to surround this subject, these balls of light. This was another one that was taken, not by myself, but it was by somebody I knew who was actually camped out in this crop circle on the top left there. Him and his girlfriend decided they were going to spend the night there, just for research purposes. But what happened to them? They were just camped out there. I don't know what time it was, early in the morning, I think. And they noticed an orange ball of light came over the hill, I think it was Milk Hill, and then drifted across the field alongside the crop circle. And they took a few photos. There's 2 or 3 there. That one in the top right is an enlargement of this one. And it just seems like a glowing orb to me. But as it came over, it came round the other side of the crop circle, and they were saying that the corn, so the wheat in the field around them, started swirling around like mad, and scared the living daylights out of both of them, and they fled the field at that point. But there was something strange was going on. There was some kind of interaction going on between them. And this kind of thing is reported quite a lot, that these balls of light seem to be present. There seems to be some kind of interaction going on. There seems to be some kind of intelligence behind them. But we're not quite sure what. But I don't think they're making the crop circles. They may make some, I don't know. But it seems to be a part of it, and it's interacting with people. Oh, here's another video clip. Now this is quite a famous clip from a few years ago now, which shows some balls of light.
Avebury, Alton Barnes, you know, that area, where they are seen really quite regularly, captured on film several times now. Particularly, I mean, those taken by Steve Alexander, for example, in 1990.
Yeah, we walked from that brow right across.
And we were just about to leave, you see. I was
and then
leaving.
we saw it, yeah.
I was picking up my gear, put on my shoulder, and I turned, and I saw this object come into view. If it had been actually 5 seconds afterwards, we would have missed this, because we would have carried on up the hill. Now I actually turned round and saw it. Yeah. I mean, it came into view, it turned, then it went down into the corn, and it moved through the corn, scampering through that corn.
Moving between two formations, crop formations that are in the field, moving from this one to this one.
It knew what it was doing, it knew where it was going.
Intelligently
controlled. Dropping down into a tractor tire mark as if it's looking at the tractor tire mark. Nothing random about it. There's no movement in the prevailing wind, you know, moving as you would in the direction of the wind if this was a balloon or something similar.
You see, the object came down and it stopped for a long time. So I thought I'd pan away to the rings to give you the distance from where actually where the object was and the rings were. Pan back and give you an actual relation of the two distances. So through all this time it was glinting, flashing all the time. Then it took off. And then of course then it just carried on over the hill, moved up and away, over the actual tractor which the farmer was in at the time.
How is that piece of paper?
It's a bird.
What, a shiny bird?
You know, I spoke to the tractor driver who was seen on this film that Steve took, and that ball went over the tractor driver's head by about 35-40 feet. And what the tractor driver sees himself, as you can see on the film, he stops his tractor as he sees this go over the top. And so we have on film this ball of light. There's no question in my mind that whatever those balls of light are, they move in a purposeful manner.
And so whatever that was, it didn't seem like something just blowing about in the wind randomly. It seemed to be like intelligently moving around, doing something. So this is quite an interesting area of crop circles, I find. And people have reported, crop circle makers have even reported seeing them while they've been making the circles. Matthew Williams, who was on earlier, he told a story of once they were making a crop circle and they saw 2 points of light coming at the side of the field, and they thought, oh, they've been rumbled here, and there's farmers coming with torches and things. And these points of light just came towards them and kept coming, and then they realized that there's nobody attached to those lights, and they just started to get a bit nervous about what was going on. And these things just started moving around them and literally chased them out of the field as if they didn't want them there at that time. And they said that was the only time that they've got really scared doing circles, and they felt that they had to leave because of that. It was almost as if that was commanding them to get out. And there's other occasions where the opposite has happened. They've actually had some sort of positive experiences with them. And we'll see more about these kind of things as we go through.